first question. What drew you to this story, and how did you know this was going to be this big and gorgeous a movie?
Well, just so you guys all know, I work for 20th Century Fox and for Fox 2000 Pictures. And one of the things that we look for in our movies is a story that captivates audiences from an emotional standpoint and draws them into the characters in their story. And this particular wonderful story that covers so many different decades and people's lives was something that was so captivating to us. And we felt that with Nicholas's beautiful words and his wonderful story that we could make a brilliant film. And I think thanks to all these wonderful people here and to George. We have
Hey, can I add to that? You know, I'm a big fan of Elizabeth Gabler. I mean, y'all don't know her, but she's had in Hollywood. She's really known for adapting novels into fabulous films. So it was really a thrill for me to be able to work with Elizabeth on this, and I couldn't be any happier with the film. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Nicholas. When I was reading the gorgeous book and then watching the movie, what I want to know is which love story did you come up with first?
I came up with, I had the idea for both love stories prior to starting the writing process, because I'm usually fairly clear on where the story is going. Otherwise, I find that it'll blow up 3/4 of the way through and I'll never finish, which has happened. So I knew what was going to happen. Then when I sat down to write, the Ira and Ruth story came first. So I wrote that. The novel is structured a little differently than the film, so he gets in a car accident, but he's not found till later. In the novel, he has imaginary conversations with Ruth. So I wrote all of these. I probably about 150 pages, broke it into 7 sections and just set it aside. Then I wrote Luke and Sophia up until they find Ira. Then I wrote to the end of the book. And then when I was in Fort Vancouver, Washington one afternoon, I had a speech. I dropped the 7 sections of Ruth and Ira into the original manuscript, hoping that the structure would work. And there was not a single edit. You know, the structure worked perfectly.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Isn't that fun?
That's incredible.
I mean, my agent was terrified that it wasn't going to come together. Like, how are you going to get these stories to weave? I'm like, I think I did that. I think it's up here somewhere. I think I wrote it somehow, and it worked.
It totally worked. George, what made you decide to bring the characters together earlier?
Well, I think it all started with Luke and Sophia. When these guys first meet, they're 2 individuals who got 2 different objectives, 2 different goals in mind from 2 different worlds, but how they're going to come together. So we needed something very early in the first act, first 30 minutes of what would propel their story forward. And that was more important for bringing Ruth and Ira's story very early, because they are the story that kind of glue these 2 people together. And that's one of the things that I love about the story thematically, is that for a loving relationship to really grow and work, you have to go through the ups and downs and the struggle, and that's what Ruth and Ira was able to bring to the story. So we had to move that up very early, and I really think that really what was the beginning of Luke and Sophia, beginning their relationship. So that's why it worked for the film to move that different part up early.
Yes, it was incredible. Seeing the juxtaposed between the 2 times. All right, everybody wants to know, Scott, let's hear about the training. How did this happen? The Cosmo girls need to know.
Well,
and we appreciate it, whatever went in.
First off, I was lucky enough to get this shot. You know, Liz Gabler and Nick Sparks, decided to, George, take a shot on a nobody like me. So, I thank them for being a part of this. And,
you're welcome.
Thank you.
But yeah, it was ruthless. When I got the role, I actually called one of my dad's old friends who was a horse wrangler in the business, and just said, well, I don't know anything about this bull riding. I love it, but I'll go up to this place in Moore Park and check it out. And I brought a case of beer to the guys and said, hey, teach me about bull riding, And then it just sort of never stopped until the film stopped. I went to Vegas.
Right.
And went to PBR events. And
Totally different than you thought.
yeah.
So much fun.
Yeah, it's wild. And I recommend going if any of y'all are into it. It's really fun. It's really great.
Did all you go together to a PBR ever?
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah.
Awesome.
They wouldn't let me go. They wanted it to be new for me. Like, it's the first time I've ever seen a rodeo event, a PBR event. So I didn't get to go to Vegas, but I went to Vegas after we shot the film with everyone.
Okay, that's
Which
good.
was nice.
That's a little mean, but I get why they did it.
Yeah, it's cruel to do to a human. Being on camera.
But you grew up and you were born in North Carolina, grew up in South Carolina. So were you like showing everybody the ropes?
Hilarious. No, not at all. No. I mean, I've actually spent a lot of time in Wilmington, North Carolina, even though I'm from different parts of the Carolinas. But I'm pretty sure everyone found their way around the city way before I did. I'm more of a homebody human, and they were like, finding the local donut shops and all that stuff way before I could give them my 2 cents. So, no, actually, no.
No.
I'm
Okay.
sorry to say.
But was there good barbecue eaten?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Good. So did you actually ride bulls? Like, was there bull riding there?
I did. I actually rode a bull after the movie. What an idiot, right?
You didn't want to.
Movie's done. Go ride a bull afterwards. I didn't feel comfortable, looking these guys in the face the whole time. They're bucking bulls, and then going and promote a movie and saying that I knew what it was about. So I said, I got to do this. So I went up with my buddies, and luckily I didn't get killed. But we actually have the video. I think we're gonna put it on Jimmy Fallon, so you guys can check it out on Jimmy Fallon.
Amazing. Una, you, I have to say, have the best costumes in the movie. The period clothes, the costume designer did such an incredible job. Did that help get you in the mindset of Ruth?
Yeah, totally. When you have those clothes on, it's like your whole physicality changes because we don't dress like that as sophisticated modern women, We dress much more relaxed. So it was lovely. We feel very elegant and like feminine and sort of, your whole thing changes.
I'd love to see the hair change, like as you see time pass with the hair.
Yeah. All wigs. Don't tell anyone.
All wigs?
Yeah. Cosmo secret.
Exactly. All right. Good to know, wigs. All right. Nicholas, back to you.
Yeah.
So you said you had the idea for both stories, but how does that happen? Can you, to the rest of us, humans, explain the brilliance of being bull riding and art?
Yeah, how do you tie these things
And
together?
North Carolina and Jews and
Yeah, there was a lot going on in that, right? There was a lot of things going on. I think the best way to think of it is that you don't have all these ideas at once, right? One thing leads to another. So I wanted to write a dual love story. And then you say, okay, what I want to do is to have two couples that will face challenges. There will be compromises, sacrifices. They're different on the surface, but they're obviously attracted to each other. And then after that, I wanted them to be as different as they possibly could, right? And so one it's a period piece, it's set in the 40s, and it's Jewish, and of course that led to exploration of what it was like in the Triad, this is the Greensboro area of North Carolina, in the 30s and 40s for Jewish people. So got to learn about that, and then you learn a little bit about modern art, right? Because Black Mountain College is there, and Black Mountain College is, I think, for a college that was only in existence for 20 years, probably had the most profound effect of any institution of higher learning in the history of our country. I mean, I was just at the MoMA yesterday, and you walk through and you see an entire hall. It's got Rauschenberg and Franz Klein, and it's got de Kooning and Twombly and Jasper Johns, who was influenced by all of this. It's staggering, and this stuff. I mean, right there in the MoMA is Woman 1. I think Woman 3 sold for what, $395 million. I mean, it's amazing, and all of that really came from Joseph Albers and Black Mountain College, and he was only around for 20 years.
Had you known about Black Mountain College?
No, it was one of the great moments of kismet in the history of my writing career. I had this couple. I had the idea that they were going to collect art, and I was at my desk one day, and I said, how am I going to pull this off? They're from North Carolina. There's no artists in North Carolina. Now, you figure if it's in New York, it'll work, right? So I just Googled artists in North Carolina. Like, I seriously, and one link led to another, and it came up Black Mountain College, and I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. It was like 2 hours from where I was setting the book. I called my agent and said, you're not going to believe what I just found. And I read about it. It just worked. It was unbelievable. Total thing. And then the whole bull riding thing. I grew up watching rodeo, and the ranch that I describe in the book, it's where my sister lived before she passed away, and her husband, Bob, he was in rodeo, and he rode broncs. And interesting guy. He, very much like Luke, he's the only guy I've ever known who's been in a plane crash. I said, he was flying to an event in Reno. He was in a plane crash. I said, oh my gosh, what was that like? He said, well, you're kind of going down, and then it's boom, 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 boom. I'm like, well, what then? He said, well, we still had that event in Reno, so we got our stuff and walked to the highway and hitched our way to Reno. Did pretty good. I'm like, wow, there are people like this. He wears a cowboy hat and boots, and that's who he is. You can get on a bull and you'll see it's no big deal. Plane crash is no big deal.
That was the easy part of the day.
Right.
So Una told me that you are what made this a really warm set. You kind of brought everybody together, and would the rest of you agree with that? That George kind of like...
Absolutely. George was the leader of the pack.
Totally Captain George.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Like, what you want to foster a group of people?
Well, it's very interesting because Britt was the first person that we actually cast. Elizabeth, we saw her audition tape, so we were like, we got to get Britt right in the movie. She felt like the character Sophia, the ideal, even though she's from South Carolina, she felt very ideal when she came in, a person from New Jersey, a person who was very goal-oriented. We really saw that right away, so we immediately started having chemistry tests, and then Scott came in, and there was this really interesting chemistry that you guys were completely two different individuals, but it just kind of worked for the film. So that was the first connection. You guys had your own chemistry, your own tone, but when Jack and Una was completely different, and when we were doing rehearsals and how we shoot, really is almost like you're shooting two different movies. And that was really what I wanted to establish, was have each individual have their own tone and bring that to their story. So a lot of the times we would be very sticking to the material or changing lines. Sometimes you and Jack would sometimes improvise, and we just bring new material on top of that. So that's what I really like as a director, is we can bring honesty, you can bring yourself to the role. And it was very interesting. The most weirdest thing for me as a director was when we shot the last scene around the tree. It was the first time we saw all four of you guys together, and it was really weird seeing you guys in a frame because it was like two different stories. But that's the kind of thing I like as a director, is that we really felt as a cast and as crew and as the film was, what can we do to make the best film and make it feel honest as possible? And it really started from that. So with Britt to, with Scott, and then we had to chase this young lady down here over the world. She was in Spain somewhere. We had to call her and beg her, and she was awesome. And we really felt that Ruth was the most important in terms of what the story and what love represent. And you and Jack immediately just connected. So Jack is shooting the movie in Europe right now, so he wanted to tell everybody hi.
Props to Jack.
Yeah,
Jack is off shooting Ben-Hur. Whatever.
Yeah, and I would say that when we look, in our discussions with Elizabeth, that's really important, is you try to get a director that's really good with the talent, because they're going to ask the talent to really stretch themselves. I mean, everyone up here had to stretch themselves in a long way. If you're Una, you have to pull off 19 to 45. It's hard. It's hard. You don't have a lot of scenes to do. It's awesome, but it's not as easy as she makes it look, right? And
with the dialect, she had
been on
the
Bulls before, but it's got to be utterly believable.
She had the dialect to pull up.
The emotion. So you got to have someone that the actors really like to work with, because they have to trust him, because it's going to ask them to stretch in ways that they haven't stretched before.
And I have to add that for us all of us. I think having Ellen Alda as a part of this film was truly a remarkable experience. This wonderful man, to be able to play this role and bring this modern couple into the story of his life, and to have them save his life, only to have him teach them this lesson of love and the endurance of love. And it's something that I think in modern day audiences we really need to have resonate, because there's not very many stories that all of us can go see in the cinema that really can say love is an enduring thing. It's something that you have to live through the ups and the downs, and the hard times and the good times. And that wonderful, wonderful actor just, I think, epitomizes that essence of Nicholas's work for all of us. And I just want to say that from me, that I'm so grateful that he's a part of this too.
Brent, what was it like for you? Were you intimidated at first? Did he give you advice?
Alan.
Yeah.
Working with Alan. You were with Alan.
I was with him a lot. I loved working with Alan. He's such a kind human being, and I could not say enough kind words about him, because he really was like my real Ira in a way. We would talk about life and just career, and he's had such a wonderful relationship and family life, and he's been able to balance both of those so well. And one thing that he always said to me that kind of stuck was, it's never enough time. He's been with his wife for so long. It was never enough for him. And for me, that just really spoke to the film and to his character and to who he is as a person. And I think it made those scenes with him and I come alive even more because of who he is, the kind of person that he is, and the life that he's had. I just love him.
One of the times that I was on the set, I was blessed to be there, was the very emotional scene where he wakes up and finds out that Ruth has passed in the night. And we all went to dinner that night, you guys remember? And I was in awe of him anyway, and I said, Mr. Alda, I just want to tell you it was such a privilege to watch you work. I was so emotional watching you in that scene. And he said, well, I have to say that part of it wasn't acting, because I've been married for, 60 years, 70 years, and I wake up every morning thinking, could that be? And I know. I feel it. But it was one of those truly, as a studio person, executive, friend of films, everybody that just admires actors and the craft that we all aspire to make the best that we can. To hear that out of this wonderful man's, life was just truly one of the most emotional things that I've ever had happen to me. But it was part of this movie, and I think the essence of what he said is there in so many ways. And George, you're directing him, and that
George,
you too.
Captured it.
Yeah, Alan is great because he's a director too. He directed like a lot of films, and I think he's very rich too because he directed the last episode of MASH. I always talk about that. But he's so great because we can have a communication where I can talk about what I need in the scene, and I don't have to say that much because he can grab it very quickly. And as a director, he can see where my camera's going to be and know where he needs to be in terms of the scene. But it was kind of great because with that particular role, you need somebody to submit the two stories together. So even though there was two stories, Britt and I would always talk about there's even a third story between her relationship and Ira. So he was great to work with, and I love working with him.
All right, since we're talking about icons, I gotta go there. You played a cowboy. I gotta go there. Was there anyone's films that inspired you in playing modern cowboy?
John Wayne's.
Totally what I like to say. That's where I'm going.
No, yeah, my dad, he's inspired me since I was a little kid. So just sitting there as a kid watching the Clint Eastwood night on TNT.
Yes, I've done that.
Well, this guy knows what he's doing. Jeez. But yeah, no, it's so funny that I played a cowboy. I don't know how that sort of happened.
It's natural.
You did it very well. You did it really well.
Britt, I heard there were some antics on set.
Antics?
Yes. I'm supposed to ask about antics on set.
Well, Scott,
You an antic leader?
he very goofy, silly, and he doesn't take himself too seriously. I'm a little more reserved and, but there were many times where he would just upset me, or not upset me, but you would just like rile everyone up just for the fun of it. I think one time he came to set, or we were on our way to a location, and he called the producers and the director and said, I'm not going to be able to make it. My buddy and I were just pulled over by the cops, and we're having some issues. There was some alcohol in the car, and this huge story. And we had like a night shoot, it's we're about to have a 12-hour night shoot in the rain. And he was just giggling, loving it. I'm on set, like trying to get my hair done, freaking out, I'm trying to get ready for the day. And then it ended up being just a complete hoax. And he showed up smiling with his shirt off, doing his thing. Happy as he can be. And I swear it felt like almost every day that
It was hot. It was very hot in North Carolina. Okay.
We'll take it out with whatever the reason. It's all good. Nicholas, when you and I were just talking outside, you were telling me how many words you write a day when you're working on a book.
Yeah.
As somebody who struggles to write 2,000-word magazine articles for a monthly magazine, you write them in a day?
Yeah, usually.
How does that happen? When you at a computer, you wake up?
Yeah, you wake up. It's different periods of time at different phases of my life. I remember I wrote a lot of the Notebook. I was working full time, and my wife was going to bed early, so I would write from about 8:30 to midnight. Then there was a period of time I wrote from 9:30 to 3. These days, I don't know why, but I'm writing about. It works really well if I write. I think it's because I get so many emails now, and there's so much other things going on. I write best really, really early, like at 4 a.m. to about 9 a.m. And that's good for about 2,000 words, and then I can edit the rest of the day and handle everything else, and hang with the kids and do everything else I have to do.
By 9 a.m., you have already accomplished.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Do you like coffee?
I love coffee.
Good, that explains
I have to
a
have
lot.
coffee
Okay.
at my house.
That makes me feel better about your work, what you do.
Yeah, all right, good. At least there's something helping that happen.
Yeah.
George, I love the different colors that you had in the different stories. Like each time in the story had a different visual feel to it.
How many people out here noticed that?
Wow, good job, George.
Yeah, that's good. It was so subtle.
Yeah, that was
so well done.
It was very fun, as a director, because you got two stories, two different styles. You got the modern world with Luke and Sophia, and then you got the period with Ira and Ruth. You can shoot them with two different styles. And in the third act, they started to emerge together. Then you got the bull riding, which we shot with like 7 cameras in slow motion. How to really, what does it really feel like to be on the bull? Me and Scott took a lot of time really studying a lot with these guys with the PBR. And it happens so fast, 8 seconds, that's all you got. Sometimes they only go 2 seconds or 3. How do you illustrate that from a filmmaking standpoint? That was really fun to really capture that in the world as what it takes to be a bull rider. And Scott really had the physical, just a physical fit to really accomplish that and really become one of those guys. But then how did the two stories emerge together from a visual style and setting that up? So what I really love is you have a very emotional story that's very human, but then you got a very cinematic style where you can really try to not have the audience just sit back, but try to be involved in that. So that just made it fun as a director that you can really try to put a lot emphasis on how do the audience feel. And that's what I really try to do as a director.
Well, that really worked. I think because there's so much talk about art in the film, I think it's almost like a heightened awareness of the visuals. Una, are you personally, is art, you communicated, both Britt and Una, feel like communicated passion for art so persuasively. Is that something that you have a personal connection to?
Yes, absolutely. My sister's an art historian, and I took history of art. And I'm completely a Renaissance girl, which is sort of from the late 1400s to the late 1500s in Florence, in Italy, really, in the whole of Italy. And that's sort of quite, it's sort of objective art, like it's people and things and symbols and stuff. But it was really interesting to discover this and to be educated on modern art. And that was something that you have to, as an audience, as a public, you have to sort of make an effort to fully appreciate what you're seeing. Which, you know, this classic story is when somebody went up to Picasso and said, oh, my 5-year-old can paint like you, and he said, well, when I was 5, I could paint like Rembrandt, so. So, you know, there is like an education to be had, and I was really grateful for the film that allowed me to really explore that modern art scene, which is now almost ancient, you know, from that period of time. But it was more modern than I'm used to, so it was good.
It was fun that having Scott kind of have the line that like people like it's happening in people's heads, being like genius to get people to Scott, your legions of fans that were tweeting at NYC wants to know if you were not acting, what career would you be doing? And I have that question for everybody.
Coming out of high school, I was sort of torn. 2 of my buddies went to go on to be Navy SEALs. So I was sort of, you know, maybe I'll go do that. And then, you know, I've been acting for about 12 years now. But there's been a couple times where I've thought about throwing the towel. And I was like, oh, well, I'll go be a firefighter or something. Because it seems like a fun job.
We're not going to let him do that, all right?
I'll be taking my shirt off.
I think we like you still acting.
With your shirt off.
All right, Nicholas.
Yes.
You got the last question.
Sure.
What's next? What's the next? You already know the next love story you're gonna.
We wrapped production on The Choice, which is another one we're in post-production now. We're screening it and working in the editing room to get that right. Working on getting into pre-production for The Guardian, which is coming, so getting ready to start work on that script. I'm working on 2 novels right at the present time. They should probably, I would guess both will be done in the next.
You're making us look bad.
Yeah,
Can you go on holiday?
The Notebook is going to Broadway, so I had meetings for that yesterday. Run a foundation, school, 5 kids, you know, just lots of stuff.
Just that old gig.
You know, hanging out.
Yeah. That's why I have to be done writing by 9, right? I don't understand. There's other things.
Yes. All right, everybody, tell everyone you know how amazing this movie is, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.